Yo, the New York Jets got a real problem. Spoiler alert, it's a real good one. We get changed to the Superman suit.
You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you had a loss? I'm so versatile, your armor in its toss, man.
Congratulations, brother. Hey,
And here we go. Much better. Okay, so the New York Jets have a real problem. Okay, let me stop right there, right? Like I said before, it's a good problem because we haven't had this problem in a very, very, very long time. So before I jump right into it, let me just explain, right? So the other day, I'm sitting there having a conversation with my brother, and he's a Steelers fan, but he's also, more importantly, a football fan. And as we all know, there's a big difference. You can be a team fanatic, whether it's the Jets, the Steelers, Cowboys, Houston Texans, whatever, right? Patriots, whatever. You can be a particular sports team's fave, but at the end of the day, you have to be a football fan to be able to go ahead and give logical perspective when it comes to all things football. So with that being said, my brother is a Steelers fan, but more importantly, he's also a football fan. So those conversations can get pretty intense, but they're usually pretty real between he and I. But this is what's crazy. We were sitting at his house, and we actually started talking about this offseason. And I know I've been reading a lot about it, but a lot of the individuals that I follow are Jets fans or Jets content creators. And we've gotten more often than not a positive outlook as to what this offseason has looked like. When I'm sitting there with him having a couple of drinks and whatnot, and we're having this conversation, I realized, like, man, yo, the Jets really crushed it this offseason. And then it dawned on me, we are going to have to cut good players this year in order to make the 53-man roster. And man, that is a really good feeling. Like, that's really something that we can be proud of as Jets fans to express. Joe Douglas literally portrayed a master class. Like, he taught a master class on how to build from the ground up. He did. This draft, last year's draft, the fact that he was able to acquire the amount of assets necessary to go ahead and cultivate this year's draft shows us that he's been playing chess the entire time while everybody else was playing checkers. To include us, I don't think there's a single one of us that saw this year's draft going out the way it did, or this year's free agency. But as we've sat back now and watched more and more about like what he did and how each particular point complements Zach Wilson, it's almost as if Joe Douglas was playing fantasy football this offseason. Like literally, when you think about it, all fantasy football is about getting the best player available on any team to go ahead and make your best dream team, right? For the New York Jets, Joe Douglas literally played fantasy football. He got the best free agents available that were going to complement the team, and the best NFL draft players available that was going to complement the team. Like, he played fantasy football while everybody else was worried about the actual aspects of NFL football. Like, in the New York Jets' problem this year is this though: they have too much talent in some of these rooms. Some of these position rooms groups are too stacked. I say this to you guys because I remember the last couple of years how excited we were as Jets fans to watch training camp. And it wasn't just our own training camp. I know for myself, I was looking at every single team's training camp trying to see what good players may have to get cut on teams who knew what they were doing when it came to pretty much building a roster. That's not us this year. This year, I'm sitting there like, man, wow, okay, wide receiver room. Yeah, now our top four is pretty much selected. We've got individuals fighting for fifth and sixth spots. Okay, that's great to know. Check. Running back room. Brees Hall. Michael Carter. In all actuality, this new guy, Bam McKnight, I've been watching tape on him, and I think he has a better chance of making the team than Tevin Coleman, right? Like, I can see him sliding up, even though Coleman had an incredible season for us last year, and a lot of Jets fans weren't expecting him to do what he did, like 4.1, 4.2 yards per carry. Yeah, he didn't blow off the charts, but like he performed better than I think any of us anticipated that he would. But we've got the running back room stacked. We have to make a decision when we come to cut that down. Wide receiver room, running back room, tight end room. We're probably gonna go ahead and lose Cager this year. I know he just made the move to go ahead and add muscle, about 40 pounds of muscle, in order to go ahead and get into the tight end room. And I know we've heard a lot of good things about him so far in OTAs. But in all actuality, who is he gonna beat? Are we gonna keep 4 tight ends? I mean, him and Yaboa, one of them's got to go. I think Yaboa's already, in my mind, already gone. I think Yaboa's already gone. I think if we keep Lawrence Cager, it's going to be purely based off of his ability to block, because we know as a former wide receiver, he can catch, he can run routes. Adding 40 pounds of muscle on his 6'4" frame, that's saying a lot. So now I guess the real question comes down to, okay, is he able to block, use all that mass to go ahead and help in the blocking game? We have a chance of keeping 4 tight ends this year. But if we don't, that means Lawrence Cager is out. Because CJ's not going anywhere. Conklin right now is my favorite to go ahead and be tight end 1, if you know there is something like that in this scenario. And Jeremy Rucker, I mean, let's be honest, he's future tight end 1. So there's no way he's leaving the team. So there's a chance that Lawrence Cager's cut. Yaboa's cut. Wide receiver room, stacked. Talent all over the place. Right now, we already know we've got a wide receiver 1 in Elijah Moore. Corey Davis, obviously, wide receiver 2. Garrett Wilson is a rookie. We're expecting big things from him, but at the end of the day, he's still a rookie in a very complex offense. So we'll see what that looks like. But he's wide receiver 3 at worst. We got Braxton Berrios, who we just re-signed on a 2-year contract for $12 million. You know, he was a Pro Bowl special teams player last year, All Pro special teams player last year. So he's on the roster. That's 4 wide receivers right there. So does Denzel Mims step up? I'm hoping he does. I really believe in Denzel Mills as being somebody that, again, good size, good speed. Last year, a lot of people have quit on him, but again, like the year before that, we were all like, wow, this kid's got skills, right? His rookie year, he has skills. Sophomore year, not so much, but then again, he got food poisoning, wasn't in training camp, wasn't at proper weight when he came to training camp, didn't really have a grasp of the offense, which showed when he got in games last year. But I really think Denzel Mims is going to bounce back this year drastically, right? So that's 5 wide receivers right there. We've got some promising individuals that we just brought in. So we got a stacked wide receiver room, a stacked tight end room, a stacked running back room. Oh, but wait, there's more. In the offseason, Joe Douglas brought in some secondary help, right? We got DJ Reed, who was a top 10 defensive back. The eye test also proved, watching his tape from last year, just how much he had excelled and had come into his game. Yeah, he's a smaller guy, right? But ultimately, we slide him in at, I think, cornerback 1. I think he's going to be CB1. I think Sauce, as talented as he is, there's some things he needs to clean up in terms of his tape. Again, if you guys watch Jets X Factor, Joe Blewett does an amazing job breaking down Sauce Gardner's tape. And one of the things that I didn't notice when I saw the tape myself, but then noticed when I was watching his analysis, is that Sauce can get kind of grabby. And sometimes he puts himself out of position by not having his feet over his body when he's lined up against freaking wide receivers. And he definitely struggles against quicker guys. Those underneath routes seem to get him a lot. So I didn't actually see those things because, of course, the tape that I was watching, it seems like his wide receivers just were locked down. They didn't get anything done. But, again, those guys like Jets X Factor and Joe Blewett do an incredible job, man, of teaching so much that I was able to realize, like, wow, okay, boom, these are the plays that you got to kind of look at, like, where he's getting beat off the line of scrimmage by quicker wide receivers, you know what I'm saying, those quick, twitchy guys. So it's very possible that it's going to take him a year or 2 to get this thing figured out. But that's cool because we got DJ Reed. Bryce didn't do a bad job last year. Like, a lot of people are forgetting, like, Bryce Hall, he held his own last year. Was he a great, you know what I'm saying, cornerback 1? No, but he went out there and he did work, right? We got Michael Carter the third, second. Wow. See, I can get them confused sometimes when I think about Michael Carter's on our team. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Michael Carter, which is a really good slot guy. Like, he balled out last year too. Oh my God, there's so much talent on this team. The secondary is going to be much better than it was last year. We brought in Whitehead as a safety. And of course, I'm still kind of like worried about the safety position and the linebacker position. But when you look at the tape, like when you look at what Whitehead brings to the table, we've got guys coming back from injury that didn't play last year. The safety position might not be that big of a deal. We are stressing right now because we don't know, right? Because we're going off what we saw last year. Yes, Whitehead lets us breathe a little bit, but we really don't know what else we have back there. Ashton Davis hasn't impressed the way you would think a guy that got selected would, right? Like I love his athleticism, but I feel like his IQ sometimes, man, like his game IQ is just lacking. I hate how he takes angles when it comes to his tackles. You're a safety, man. You're supposed to be that buffer, but I'm still worried about the safety room, but not as much. So just even in the secondary, right now we're stacked, right? Like guys who were starters last year are going to be third, you know what I'm saying, coming off the bench, providing relief, right? Like it's awesome that we're in this position. And the defensive line, probably arguably the best freaking component on the team. The best group on our team is our defensive line. And guys like Jacob Martin are going to be sneaky good for the Jets this year. You already know how I love the Jermaine Johnson freaking pick. That was my favorite pick. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I think Jacob Martin is going to be a very sneaky good fit, and he's going to wreak some havoc. Getting at quarterbacks this year, like he did when he was the Houston Texan. But then we added Jermaine Johnson. You know what I'm saying? I know Vinny Curry and all those guys are back. We still got Bryce Huff, but like we've got a core group of individuals right now who are in that defensive line room, and there's some valuable players that are potentially going to have to find other teams like getting cut. Like when Joe has to make the decision to trim down this team to the 53-man roster, there are starter quality players that the Jets will actually be able to let go. They have to let go of them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Or maybe the amazing Joe Douglas gets some of those guys traded and we get compensation for them. There's just so many options, so many good problems to have right now because an abundance of talent is what we get to deal with as Jets fans. We have not been in this situation in very, very long time. And when you talk to your other NFL fans, right? They don't have to be Jets fans, but like, as long as they're fans of the sport, they could be, you know, fans of whatever team. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. They will talk to you and talk about this offseason, and they're gonna be like, wow, man, talk about a clinic. Because freaking Joe Douglas cleaned out. Like it's almost as if everything he's been doing over the last 3 years as our general manager has cultivated to this point. Like he was bringing everything to this particular offseason. Got his quarterback he believes in. He picked his own quarterback. Got his own coaching staff. He was able to go ahead and trade away assets that didn't belong to him but got ridiculous value in return that we're still trying to figure out how he pulled that off. And he used them this year. He was aggressive. Notice Joe Douglas didn't trade, you know what I'm saying, any picks or future anything. No, he was aggressive in getting the players he wanted in the room. Almost as if 3 years ago, he had already identified what he was going to do. And he got to do it. Man, this is going to be the offseason that I think changes the narrative. It changes the conversation. The New York Jets aren't the same old Jets anymore. And that is awesome. We're going to have to let go of a lot of good players this year. We're going to be the team where like we drop a player and then never clears waivers. Moment freaking that person's drop, he's getting picked up. I think you're going to see it from our defensive linemen. I think you're going to see it from our wide receiver room. I think you're going to see it from our running back room. And our tight end room. We're going to drop these guys. There's just not enough space. Hoping to let them land on a practice squad. They never will. Because they're going to be picked up by another team. Because why? Joe Douglas is a G. Man, these Jets look really, really good. And again, it's all on paper. They got to put it all together for any of it to make sense. But for right now, we can celebrate because it's not just us saying it. Everyone is saying it. All media outlets. Jets fans, non-Jets fans, football fans all over the place are like realizing, man, this Jets roster is impressive. It's got impressive talent across the board. Now, it's up to our coaching staff. My boy Robert Saleh, which I'm a big believer in, to make sure everything comes to fruition, comes together. Because, I mean, the last thing he wants is to give the pen to another person to write his story. The Jets got a real problem. But like I said before, it's a real good one. These aren't the same old Jets. I wonder where some of these guys are going to end up. Man, can't wait. I like the kid that was on, wow. He was on that TV show with freaking Jermaine Johnson. What am I thinking? I'm having one of those moments.